What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to all things Arsenal, who are, as we all know, by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And today, we are just hours away from the away trip to Craven Cottage. We're 2 points ahead of Manchester City. This win, again, like every other game I seem to be talking about, and you know, that would be typical in the title race, but every game is pivotal at the moment, particularly with Manchester City scoring all 3 points in a really dull and uninspiring display against Palace, on which they relied on a penalty Haaland scored to win late on in the game. Heartbreaking, really, because for a long part of that game, I thought it wasn't impossible that Palace would get the draw, and that would have taken some of the pressure off this game for us today. But this title race is, you know, the best way to typify it is to being chased by Frankenstein's monster. And I'm not saying that because Erling Haaland is unpretty. I'm saying that because they are relentless, slow, unexciting, uninspiring, but efficient at getting points. They dispatched Newcastle at home, barely a whisper from the crowd. They go away to Palace. It's one of the most boring games I've watched, but they got the 3 points, and those 3 points puts pressure on. The contrast with our team, swashbuckling, high energy, huge entertainment in matches. But is that going to cause us to be even leggier? We've had a bug going through the club, and we're practically without strikers. We go away to Fulham, who have totally, just like we have, performed really well this season. It's a tough one. It's a nerve-jangling one. And, you know, to say this season's been a roller coaster, like you would expect it to be in a title run. And I think it's just been so long since we were in this position, I've forgotten what it does to your nerves. I wouldn't swap it for the world. And I am so grateful to Mikel Arteta and our thin squad for performing the kind of miracles that have put us here. But what is this game going to be like at Craven Cottage today? Well, first and foremost, having come back from Portugal, it's not entirely sure. Trying to work out who's injured and who's fit in one of Arteta's teams is a bit like trying to break the Enigma code with an abacus. He is beyond tight-lipped about this. We didn't even know whether Gabby Jesus was in Portugal or not. So we know we've got injury. We know that Eddie Nketiah, Trossard and Gabby Jesus are almost certainly not going to play a full match here. But I'm going to look at who I think is in this team and then obviously discuss what my prediction for the game is. First and foremost, Ramsdale in goal. That's a no-brainer. And certainly he's one player who doesn't need resting. And then at right back, I think he's going to go with Ben White. I thought Tomiyasu was outstanding and in with the shout man of the match when he came on for Zinchenko. And I still think that he'll go with Ben White, even though Ben White has at times looked tired. But you know, he's been solid and dependable. At left back, Zinchenko. I have done a video on the question of whether Zinchenko can defend. You know, spoiler alert, yes, he can. He's been a big part of the reason I think we are where we are. So I imagine he will play. And he doesn't look like he's tired either at the moment. And he obviously hasn't played as many games as some of the players this season. The centre-back pairing, yeah, look, Kivior's first game didn't cover himself in glory. He wouldn't have played today, whatever happens. It's going to be Gabriel and Saliba, who I think I'm right in saying have played every Premiership game together. So our back five, pretty solid, pretty dependable, and pretty strong. That said, we have shipped a goal a game on average over the last four games. And, you know, if we have a stuttering one, if we have a game where we don't score, which also fortunately we haven't done, then this could be a really disappointing, 1-0 defeat at Fulham. I'm not saying I think that's a prediction. You have to hang on for that. In the midfield, Thomas Partey looks fit. Odegaard is a question mark. He was affected by this bug. It seems to be, something to do with sore throats, if Vieira is anything to go by. So hopefully with the extra couple of days rest, he's going to be fit to play. He looked absolutely spent at the end of the game against Bournemouth. And I just think, that he's a younger player. He's not used to playing full seasons like this. And it might be starting to get to him. But he has that kind of determination. You definitely play him if he's fit, but you have Vieira on the bench to bring on if he's tiring or if we need that extra injection of energy. So the midfield looks like it's going to be Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka and Odegaard. solid, dependable. Again, big part of the reason we are where we are. I think Jack has looked tired. Hopefully he can play through it, and he's had a couple of days extra rest. And now it goes to up front, and this is where, with injuries that we've had this season, and I think it's worth repeating, and maybe I haven't said this enough. People did ask questions about what would happen if we didn't have Thomas Partey and we didn't have, particularly Gabby Jesus got injured. And that was almost prophetic, because that's exactly what happened. The World Cup, he doesn't come back. We haven't had him since January, and we are still 2 points clear at the top of the league at the moment, potentially 5 points clear if we can win today's game against Fulham. And in normal circumstances, you would expect us to beat Fulham. They've only ever beaten us 3 times. We have a fantastic record away at the moment in London derbies. We've won all 4 without conceding a goal. So the bookmakers, I know, are making us heavy favourites for a win. However, this front line is an issue, isn't it? Martinelli is not exactly prolific up front. He squandered a couple of chances. I mean, one of them would have been goal of the season, any season, but he didn't score it. And the other one, which was a lovely through ball to him from Zinchenko, which he hit at the keeper, which you've got to figure that an Eddie Nketiah or somebody who is born to score goals will be getting. But he really is our only option up front, unless by some miracle Gabby Jesus is going to be on from the start, which I don't predict will be likely. And certainly, given he's had no minutes since January, doesn't necessarily seem like it would be a good idea either. So we are going to play Martinelli up front, and Saka's playing again. Now, Saka just... Look, I know Arteta says that a professional footballer has to be able to play every single minute of every 3 days. But I do feel like a young player with his energy levels is great, but it's asking a lot of him. Frankly, I think he's a world-class player, and I think you can ask a lot of him, and we're just blessed that he's an Arsenal player. So the front 3 is going to be Saka and Martinelli, and who else? Now, Reiss Nelson played against Sporting, and we all wanted to see that because of his standout performance against Bournemouth. And don't forget, he had a standout performance coming on a substitute for Nottingham Forest against Nottingham Forest. So a lot of talk about his goal involvement per minute was better than anyone in the league. I don't know if that's still true if you count the Sporting game, but he had a great start in the Sporting game and then sort of dropped off a little bit. Who knows? I would probably, if at all possible, start with Emile Smith-Rowe, just because I think that he carries the ball better than almost anyone in our squad, and has that goal involvement that we are really going to rely on in this game. So it comes down to a question of fitness, realistically. Most likely, I think he will start with Reiss Nelson, but I personally would love to think that we could get Emile Smith-Rowe playing a full match, or at least the first 70 minutes. And I'd rather we started with our strongest team and had to make changes rather than rest players. We're certainly not a team that should be resting players for the return leg of Sporting Lisbon on Thursday. So where does that leave us? This lineup, I think, are fully fit, fully rested, deals with Fulham pretty easily. Fulham will have one eye on next week's FA Cup game at Manchester United. Fulham, results-wise, not spectacular. They did lose at home to Tottenham. They did beat Chelsea, but Chelsea had a player sent off. They did beat Leeds at home, and they drew with Wolves. They're not prolific goal scorers, so you wouldn't really expect them to score more than one goal. But then I didn't expect Sporting to score more than one goal. I didn't expect Bournemouth to score more than one goal. And I didn't expect Villa to score more than one goal. Our defence has been part of the reason we are where we are. I'm not criticising, but they haven't looked as solid as we would like. And this is an away fixture. I think prediction-wise, I'm going to go with... So my heart wants to say 3-1, because I really genuinely feel like Martinelli will score in this game, and I think Saka will score in this game, and I think Odegaard will score in this game, and I'm kind of hoping that Emile Smith-Rowe is the reason he sets them all up. So my heart is telling me we'll score 3 goals and they'll score 1, but it won't matter. But if I look at this and I try and stay objective and I try and keep my nerves out of it, which is getting really difficult, I'm saying I think this is a 2-2. And then watch everybody jump on the bandwagon of the, we're stuttering, we're falling behind, we don't have the experience to win league titles. It will not be over today, whatever happens, because we can steal a march on Manchester City by winning a game against Palace. bearing in mind that they don't have another league game now till the 1st of April. So we can rebuild. The international break is coming up. It's probably going to do us more favours than anyone. For this game, I'm going to be glued to the set. I'm going to be hoping it's not another thrill show. I want a nice, solid 2-0, 2 goals in the first half, shut it down in the second half, processional, bring on some substitutes, rest some players, no scares whatsoever from a Fulham team that don't care too much. But like I said, my real view here is that it's going to be a 2-2. I'm passionately hoping that it's going to be a 3-1. Final prediction, if we're going heart or head, final prediction is, and I hate to say this, is 2-2. But I don't think, in the context of what we've been through this season, that that's a terrible result. And whatever happens, I will be cheering loudly and supporting the team. So will you, if you love Arsenal Football Club as much as I know you do. Now, if you love the content so far, then you should be hitting subscribe. That way I can keep you updated every single day with news and views from our beloved club, lineups, predictions, all of that. And also, if you like this video, the least you could do is snap that like. Apart from that, comments are always welcome. I love to hear what you think, where you agree with me, where you disagree with me. I've had some really good conversations as a result of these videos, and I hope that continues into the future. So thanks so much for your love and support. I'll see you after the Fulham game. Lots of love.